Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Sabrina Zohar Show. My name is Sabrina Zohar, and I am your host. Welcome, babes. We are in Bonus Tuesday. Pew, pew. It's my favorite. I love a bonus episode. And this week we have Dr. Scott Lyons. He is probably one of my favorite humans. I love him so fucking much. And we're talking about something really, really, really important. And that is the high highs and low lows in dating. When we have that push-pull dynamic, that, dare I say it, the drama. Right? We've all been there, and it's okay. But today, Scott and I are going to dissect everything and really, really give you guys the tools that you need. And guys, we hear you. I've listened to the feedback. You want shorter intros, so we're going to get to the fucking point here and get to it. So before we do that, don't forget, rate and review the show. I'll say this every fucking time because it's really, really important for me. It helps us grow. Please share it with a friend, and don't forget to leave a rating. Please be kind in the verbiage that you use, but I respect all of your opinions, and it really, really does mean the world to me. Guys, as always, if you need anything, link in show notes. You can work with me, join the courses, whatever you need. There's some free guides. They are there to help you guys. And as always, thank you everyone for showing up. We have another amazing week together, and I'm just so grateful for you guys. So without further ado, let's get right on into it, shall we? Hi, Scott.
Hi, my love.
I'm so fucking happy to be here. Welcome to the Sabrina Zohar Show.
I'm so excited to be here.
We just filmed your episode, which was phenomenal. And anyways, before I spoiler alert it for the audience, could you please, for anyone who doesn't know who you are, which is absurd, could you please introduce yourself and share a little bit about you?
Sure. I'm Scott Lyons, also known as Dr. Scott Lyons. Most people don't know that I became a doctor because scottlyons.com was already used by a porn star. And I grew up with that battle of wanting to become someone, but that, domain already used. So I went and got a couple degrees. And now I'm Dr. Scott Lyons.
Oh, God, that's incredible.
Studied
alone just for that.
just that. Studied a lot of different types of healing modalities, specifically in somatic, so body-oriented psychotherapy. Wrote a book called Addicted to Drama. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. I love creating. I love designing. I love hanging out with you.
Yeah.
All of the above.
That's why I'm so excited to have you, because I think, well, one, I love you. But second of all, I think when I first saw, and I was talking to the audience of let's talk about being addicted to the drama.
Yeah.
We started to realize wait a minute, I don't think anybody wants to identify with that.
Oh, hell no.
Right? So it's that's okay. We'll reword this and we will rework this. But I think it's so important for us to really understand, and I'm really excited about having your expertise in somatic work, because I think when we are understanding let's talk in general. Our audience is mostly daters, right? Yeah. For anybody in a relationship, we see you, we love you, thank you for being here, and you can still learn from anything.
And fucking cheers. Good on you.
Good on you. But if not, and that's okay, wherever you are in your journey, because you can be in a relationship and still be dealing with what we're going to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
With is that intense push-pull, the hot and cold, the inconsistency. To me, that's how I see drama, when we think of that.
Yeah.
And I am curious, when you even just started to explore all this, was it from personal experience that you were, okay.
Oh, yeah. No, I come from a long lineage of those addicted to drama, those who, it was unnecessary stress. It was where the emotions and the stories and the voice and the language all was super disproportionate and what needed to actually be there. It was if I were to blow out a birthday candle with a fire hose, that would be my childhood. And then I became a thespian. No, right? We became actors. Because what else do we fucking do with that? I knew how, from the beginning of the chaos of my childhood to the abuse to just seeing all of the addicts in my family, what I figured out how to do is how to change an environment. Yeah. And I could be on stage in front of thousands of people, like I did most nights in my early 20s, and I could make them feel what I felt. I could evoke this emotion, this experience from them. I could leak out of my own body. And what I didn't really recognize until later on is that's great as maybe an actor or performer. It's shit in a relationship. It's shit to be in a room with someone who's either pulling you into their chaos as a means to feel connected or leaking out all of their essence, all of their emotions without any boundary as another way to feel related to.
That was really beautifully put. Because I think I know for me, like when I would think of, I don't have any drama, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't do that. And it's like, oh, no. When my sister and I would talk, and she would always say, like, I don't know anybody has this many issues in dating, right? And it's like, that's another way to look at it is like, are you seeing patterns of, wow, yeah, I date a lot of really amazing, consistent, secure people. It's like, and if not, that's okay. And I think a lot of people look at this as like, I don't know, I just can't find anybody. And it's just, these are all the people I'm meeting.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious if we can go a level deeper.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just, oh yeah, everybody on the dating apps is garbage. It's like, well, I met my partner. But if we're seeing that kind of pattern where you're consistently finding yourself, like, what is under the hood?
Yeah. I think by the third meth addict I dated, I had to go to myself and go, what is the common denominator here? And that's me, y'all. That was me. And I had to do a hard left and go, I think this is not what I want in my life. And I'm the only one who gets to choose that. But I also have to recognize, well, I didn't bring them their trauma. I didn't have anything to do with the drugs they chose. I did keep seeking them, even though I purposefully was like, I'm never going to do this again. There was something in me like a beacon, a magnetism towards that other trauma, towards that drama, towards something that wouldn't find peace, stillness, and ease. And I had to be the one who decide, I think I'm done being the instigator of my own suffering.
That is a huge part. Like when we actually have to take accountability of like, I am a part in my own suffering.
Yeah.
I have been playing this because I have been playing the script in my head over and I've been committing to this part, if you will.
Yeah.
That I think like I will not try to pretend like I didn't date these types of people. Okay, right? But I think...
We would have dated.
Right, 100%.
100%.
Oh, if we were on the same team.
Yeah, we were on the same team.
100%. I consistently went for the either being emotionally unavailable or like at the time I didn't even know what that meant. I remember the first time finding out a guy I was dating was emotionally unavailable, calling my mom going, oh my God, this is it. Because everything I was reading, I'm like, oh, that's him. But not knowing what to do with that, right? Okay, he's emotionally unavailable. Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
And I think for me, growing up in a household where you never knew what was going to happen.
Yes.
Every day was a new adventure, not in a fun way, but in a, are we going to get hit? Are we going to be left? Is this person going to be sweet or are they not? So that type of just ingrained understanding that every day is a fight, right?
Yeah.
Like I have to survive.
Yeah.
Then as an adult, if it was healthy, it's, ew, you're boring. I don't want this.
Right? You know you're healing when boring is sexy. You know, I say that. Like when the red flags are no longer attractive is when you're healing. Like, and when you can move past the layer of like, I'm bored and this is okay, you actually get into the nuance and the flavors of relationship, which is so rich and so full of life. But you can't get to it if you're constantly in the cycle of drama, essentially, where it's fights and it's intensity and it's stories and narratives that you're creating. It's like, you know, I had someone I know who told me, they're like, I woke up from a dream where my partner and I got into a fight and I couldn't stop being mad at him for the rest of the day. And I'm like, what? But we do that. So many of us do that in our waking life too. And those addicted to drama can't actually decipher between the narratives we make up around someone and the interpretations we default to and what's actually here in the present moment. The past is the present for so many of us with trauma, and we're enacting it out here and now in this relationship.
This episode is brought to you by Cuddley. For those of you who know me well, you know how much Clem meant to me, my rescue baby, the dog that I had for 10 years. And rescuing him, honestly, who rescued who, right? And that's why I'm so excited that you guys are introduced to Cuddley. So Cuddley is a fundraising platform that supports animal welfare organizations all over the world. So they have over 4,000 shelters and rescues that trust Cuddley to raise funds and receive donations of supplies for the animals in their care. Why donate through Cuddley? So Cuddley thoroughly vets and verifies every rescue organization they work with. So unlike with other fundraising platforms, you can be certain that your donation is actually going to an animal in need. And in order to join the Cuddley platform, an organization must be 501c3 nonprofit in good standing. And all donations made through Cuddley are tax deductible, and it is incredibly easy to access your donation receipt to file with your taxes. So your donation history history is clearly visible in your donor account, and Cuddley even puts them all in a single document for you. Guys, I cannot scream this enough from the rooftops. Please, please, whatever you can, donate today. You're helping animals like Kobe that I have who are in need, and Clem, and I can't imagine where these babies would be without Cuddley. So now your dollar goes even further. This is huge, guys. For every $20 donated through a one-time donation, Cuddley will gift a soft and snuggly blanket to a rescue animal in need. Guys, please, please, I beg of you, head to cuddly.com/Sabrina to make a donation and help make a difference. Again, that's cuddly.com/Sabrina. I'll say this one more time for all of the angels that need help. Cuddly, CUDDLY.com/Sabrina. 100%. My therapist the other day, I have somebody that I have two, of course, I'm very LA.
You got to have a fucking team.
You have to have multiple.
I need 5.
I need multiple people to check me and tell me what I'm doing. Because like, there's also a reality, like, you know, as a therapist, like I think there's also this weird fetishization of like, well, the therapist told me this. And
oh my God, you cannot weaponize your fucking therapist.
It's like, well, but they're not God, right? Like this person doesn't know everything. No. They're coming with their own shit.
And they only hear your story and you're part of it. And if a good therapist is reading between the lines, y'all, they are there for you, but they're also going, what am I not hearing? Right.
And it's like, for me, like I so many times where I was like, talk to my therapist of just always of like, I don't understand. Or why is this happening? And what's going on? And it's like, I had a therapist for a minute that like never called me out on anything and would just say, yeah, no, I totally get how tough that is. Until I started to have therapists that were like, even with this guy that I was dating, like I remember came on so strong.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was like, we met at a workout class and it was just instant. Like the minute I was like, he's the only straight guy in this class. And he was like quite a looker to be in. It was a very, like, it was like a sculpt class. So like there were not a lot of guys in there, except like the gays that would come and so here for that. Yeah. So instantly I was on the prize with this guy and I went right up to him and like, I don't know where this came from. I was like, oh, the only straight guy in a sculpt class, huh? And he turned around and he's like, so you saw me fucking struggling. And it was just, that was it. It was the minute we connected, chatting. And then we were FaceTiming that night because he was in town. And we had this incredible date. You know, oh my God. And I was calling my mom. I'm like, I spent 3 days with this guy and he's leaving town, but like, we want to keep seeing each other. And then of course that was the one. And then the minute he left, the behavior started to change and the flip-flop and the hot and cold and the this and the this. And now in my past life, like early 20s, I would have kept that train going until you literally ran me over with it and I had no pulse. But then as I started to kind of go along, I really was tapping into like, well, this doesn't feel good. Like one night being so connected, he was very disorganized. Like one night he would be all over me. And then in the morning, it was like he was a different person.
Wow.
And it was 2 days of that, or 3 days, three nights, 4 days. So like it was a weekend of it. And I left and the next morning I ended it with him. Yeah. And everyone was shocked because they're like, he's so gorgeous. How could you do this? And it's like, because I don't like this dynamic anymore. The up, the down, the high, the low. Oh, they're going to pick me and then you come crashing down. It can. And you could be in a relationship of that. This doesn't mean that you have to be dating, but it's also about being cognizant of like, I don't know that this feels good for me. Yeah. And that's a really great fucking place to start. And I am curious because I know you have a somatic practice that is, but can you explain, I think just a little bit more of like how that one can help us move through these traumas, but really to understand, like, if we have this propensity for the highs and lows and that push-pull, where do you even start with that?
Yeah. Well, often if we're on someone else's roller coaster or even on our own, we have likely self-abandoned ourselves, right? That sort of, are chasing them or we are on their ride.
Can I really quick, can you explain a little bit further self-abandoning? Because I talk about it all the time, but I would love like your perspective clinical for the people listening.
Yeah, maybe I'll give an example. This is the way that I feel it in my body. So we'll come back to what somatics is, which is like body-oriented psychotherapy. But if you sit on the end of a chair and you reach your hand out, and then you keep extending your arm out, reaching for someone, and to the point where you no longer can feel the support of the chair underneath you, that's that anxious self-abandonment that's happening. And we do it often for those of us who have an anxious attachment style. That is the somatic experience inside, that you're constantly reaching out past yourself. So self-abandoning, being present, anchored, grounded in yourself, in the pursuit. And what that leaves you with is no one is home to even be met or meeting the other person. And so like, if you're on someone else's roller coaster, you have likely are not in your body. You're likely not present. You're not feeling your experience. And the moment you turn around and you go, what am I feeling? oh shit, I hate this ride. Oh shit, I don't like fucking roller coasters. Shit, I don't like amusement parks. And you go, that's the moment you're back in yourself and you have more power and agency again. But if we're so used to believing that the only way we will be loved is if we chase it or if we pursue it, then there is no one home to receive that love. And if they leave, then we truly are alone because we're not even here in ourselves.
Oh, that was beautifully put. I like the chair. I like that analogy of like consistently reaching that you don't even have yourself anymore.
No.
I used to self-abandon like it was nobody's business.
Oh, I'm certified in it.
Is that the other?
Yeah, I have so many certificates. That's one of them for sure.
That's the doctor. Yeah. And it was like palpable to the point where I just never stopped to be like, hey, this doesn't work for you, Sabrina.
Yeah.
And if you said, let's go out at 10 o'clock at night, okay.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, well, wait, but I don't want to go out at 10. That's too late for me. Yeah. Like, I'm old. I'm in bed by 9. Sorry.
Yeah.
The senior citizens have it right?
Yeah.
Eat an early dinner, take care of your plants, and go to bed early.
Yeah.
But that self-abandonment piece, I think, I'm curious your perspective because I think a lot of people are scared of like, how do we differentiate between like self-abandonment versus the pendulum swinging and then being too selfish?
Yeah.
How can we find a balance, I think, between those two? Because it is important, right? You want to I need to be selfless for my partner to a certain extent, but then I also need to make sure that my side of the street is clean and taken care of.
Yeah. I mean, to me, again, it's an easy somatic experience. It's like, if I am here in myself and I'm attuned to myself, it likely means I can also be attuned to you. If there's a wall and a barrier there where I can't actually feel you, your presence, your breath, your energy, anything, that means that sends a bi-directional connection, which is the essence of relationship, where we have literally a fucking bridge between us where we both can cross and where we don't like abandon ourselves and where we don't lock up the castle. You know?
Yeah.
And so if the drawbridge is down from the castle, I can feel you. Like we're in the same room right now, right? Little simple practice. Can we just feel where the breath is moving in our own bodies? Yeah.
I appreciate things like that because it even just makes me, for a second, come back to me.
I feel you more coming back into yourself, and it makes me more easy to come back into myself because I'm like, okay, there's nothing else we have to do at this moment but be here in ourselves. And then we might just say, can we share the air? Can we both recognize that we're breathing the same air, even as we feel the air moving in ourselves? Okay.
It's powerful.
Great. Now we're in some relational connection and we're still in ourself. When we're self-abandoning or the walls are up, neither of those things are happening.
It's interesting. You said something earlier that I like had in my head. I'm surprised my brain. She ADHD. I've told Ryan the other day, I was like, I wish I could have you see my brain. He was like, no. I was like, that's true, valid. His OCD, he would not be able to handle it. But one thing that like, it was something small, I was frustrated by something from somebody else. Yeah. And it was yesterday. We were at the hotel and it was like the AC was making a noise. Yeah. And I kept saying it was making a noise. And Ryan was being a little discrediting. It was just a little like, I don't hear what you're saying. I think, come on. Kind of being like, I think you're being dramatic. And it's like, he didn't say that, but he was just very like, I don't hear it. I don't hear it. Sure enough, guess who had an impact on their sleep? Yeah, it wasn't just me. But I knew it in my gut. I was like, no, there was something off with this. Like, I'm not going to, I'm not. And at first it was one of those moments where like I shut down, right? Yeah. When he was saying that, I went into the bathroom and I was like, and I was huffing and puffing. You kept hearing, all around the room. Every 2 seconds, and you could know he's like, you're regulating over and over. Yeah. But what I noticed was in that space that I gave, I created an entire narrative. I'm like, fuck this guy. Right? I started to progress and I was like, why don't you fucking discredit me? Yeah. Don't you dare. And I started to build. And it was like, but I was cognizant and I caught myself and I was like, Sabrina, you are villainizing your partner right now.
Yes, you're not, good work.
We are doing that. And I said, but it's okay. You can take a minute to be quiet, figure out how you'd like to articulate this. Yeah. He beat me to it. He came in and he was like, I can feel you're really upset right now. What's going on? And I said, I feel that I'm being discredited.
Beautiful.
I feel like this. I feel like, and we were able to talk. And he said, you know what? I'm sorry if I made you feel that way. That wasn't my intention. I was actually trying to alleviate this. Yeah. What would make you feel supported? And I said, if you are on my side, that when the engineer comes up, you can also say that you hear what I'm talking about, even though you think it's normal, but you hear it. Yeah. And he was like, okay, you got it. So when the guy came up, he was like, listen, she hears it. It's happening. Yeah. Things like that of, it's okay. Because then after I villainized him and I was like, he wasn't trying to hurt me. Yeah.
And oftentimes in the villainization, in the narrative, in the story creation, we are self-abandoning. Because I bet in that moment, it brought you so far from looking underneath the hood of what you're feeling and recognizing that you deserve to have that feeling. and to be present with it. Yeah. And that's what that sort of drama cycle does. It keeps us from the vulnerability of our own pain that's typically underneath underneath what's actually here. And oftentimes when we were abandoned from other people, or no one really met us or saw us, that we don't believe that we deserve to be attended to and attuned to by ourselves, let alone someone else. We think, oh, they didn't see me. But how much are we even seeing ourselves? And how much can we receive or absorb being seen? I said to you a while ago, I was like, I gave you a compliment and you said, thank you. And I said, I feel you receiving that compliment. That's huge. Like, that's not easy to do, whether it's a compliment or just like love. It's not easy to take and absorb that. And when we can't, we often go, the wall is up and we're not able to absorb it, but I blame the other person for not giving it enough.
Yes.
And that's all part of this like drama cycle.
This episode is brought to you by Micrology. Guys, for those of you who have been following along, you guys know I'm big on microdosing. And the reason I love microdosing is because it's awesome that it provides an all-natural alternative for those looking to enhance their lives and support their mental health. So it's free of side effects, dependency, and toxicity. For me, microdosing has been just an outlet for me. Sometimes it just takes the edge off in the day and just gives me a little bit of shine, right? It helps reduce anxiety and depression, mitigate chronic stress, the ongoing of the mind, new perspectives, and it allows you to reap the benefits of the improved mental health, focus, creativity, empathy, openness, just so much more. Like I really do love microdosing because it helps, especially with my ADHD, right? Like I did not want to take any specific medication because with my gene mutation that I have, it does not benefit me. The SSRIs weren't helping me. And so microdosing has allowed me the emotional regulation and relief without everything else that comes with it. And that for me personally was a game changer. And guys, anyone can use it. That is the beauty of Micrology. I personally love Clarity. It's 125 milligrams. It's a really, really low dose. And it just gives enough for the day for me to feel, I got this. So guys, if you guys use the code Sabrina20, you get $20 off your first order. So everything will be linked in the show notes at Micrology. But again, use the code Sabrina20 for $20 off your first order. And I'm so excited to hear. Guys, let me know, how has microdosing helped you and what are the benefits that you've noticed as well?
And another part of the drama cycle is fighting for sensation. Drama doesn't make sense because it's about making sensation. And so it's like, I had lots of couples I worked with, especially when I was doing my research, that was like, hey, I actually fight because it makes me feel alive in the relationship. I feel like I see the biggest part of their emotions and then I know they love me. And it's like, oh, fuck, hon. And, that's not what we're aiming for here. What if something on a decibel of 2, the music we play at a decibel of 2 is something you can dance to, as opposed to cranking it up at a decibel of 10 and going, this is how we can dance.
Oh, I love that. Do you watch 90 Day Fiancé? No. Okay, that's my trash.
I'm just not good with reality television.
Oh, I love it. Oh my God. Because I love being able to distance myself from it and be like, well, I am normal.
Not that.
Yeah. And there was one couple, and I've mentioned him in the past, but there was this one guy, and it was so obvious that these two were not compatible. Yeah. Like this guy, we call him threesomes. He was Italian. All he kept saying was, I want threesomes. I want threesomes. I want threesomes. And the girl he was dating was like, I don't want those. Now, the issue was when they first started dating, she said okay to it. Yes. She said it was fine. And then like a year in, she was like, I feel like you're disrespecting me and I want that. And it's like, whoa, wait, but that was the contract you signed. It's not being disrespectful. He's saying this is what I want. You said okay to it. Yeah. And at one point, I think the interview, like they were interviewing him and they said, well, do you guys think this is working? There's a lot of volatility. You guys are always fighting to make up. And he smiled and he goes, well, what's the point of being in a relationship if it doesn't keep you alive? I want that. I want to fight. Because otherwise, it'll be boring. What do I want? So that I just know that she's there. Yeah. And it hit me and I was like, oh, there's your trauma showing, bub. Yeah. Because for me, like to your point earlier, like receiving a compliment was really tough for me for so long because as a child, that came with, my love, my father, you look so beautiful. Seconds later, you fucking idiot. What the fuck are you doing? Yeah. And you're like, well, wait, but you just said you were proud of me. And now you're calling me all these names. And I was like, so for me, it was, I didn't trust it. Why are you saying something nice to me? It's only going to come with something else. Yes. Which is where it's like, you want that. I need that high. And this is what I'm used to. I'm used to having to earn love. Because for me to have to say, wait, I don't have to do anything. Like, you love me as I am.
Isn't that a wild experience?
Oh my God.
Holy shit.
You know where I learned that from?
Where?
My mother. Because the other day I said something to her, and this is now.
Yeah.
I've been working with her and helping her for years. And I said, Mom, I want you to come visit, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'll get you your ticket. And she goes, okay, well, I can do this and this. And I said, but I just want you to come. She goes, but Sabrina, I'm useless to you otherwise. And I said, Mama, why do you need to have a use for me? I said, but you being here is just what I want.
Yeah.
And she even stopped and she's like, I'm sorry, that's the conditioning. She's like, I'm just so used to, I have to provide in order to be useful. Because that's what she learned from my father, right? Narcissism. He brought her in. And then my father, I will never forget, he told my mother this to her face when I was there. He said, you don't do anything for me anymore. What the fuck do I need you around for?
Oh my God.
That is where then we wonder why you date people that are like, I have to prove my worth. I have challenge accepted. Let me go further. Let me come closer. Let me work harder. Well, that's just the dynamic that you knew. Because correct me if I'm wrong, you said you worked with children.
When I first started my practice, I used to work with kids. Yeah.
Did you see, could you tell, especially, because I can see, sometimes you see the parents and your kid, you're like, oh, that's obvious. But were you able, because especially working with such a young age, were you able to see where they were starting to really create these narratives?
A bit, but I also worked with neonates, freshly out of the womb.
Yeah, like meatballs.
Yeah. But there were instances when there was kids that would come in and they were so 2 and they were so locked down, so closed off, and other people wanted to just diagnose them. This is what is wrong with them. And to me, it was they don't yet feel the consistent safety to open up like a flower.
That was me.
Yeah. And consistency, the absence of consistency is chaos. And we start to look and predict for the next absence of consistency. And so that's, for so many of us, when we have one of the examples I actually love to give is I'm gonna snap for those who can't see the video. So when I start to offer a sound like a snap, and there's a point where it becomes a habituation, meaning that it becomes the new normal.
Yeah.
And then you take the new normal away, and I just saw you startle. It's because you look for it. Mm-hmm. Now, if that snap was chaos, if that snap was something that isn't love, but it was the consistent for so long and then it's taken away, we build the consistency of it, meaning that we start to look for that snap. If that snap is something that's a red flag, then we start to look for it unintentionally. If that is a narcissistic partner, then we start to look for that because it feels like home. It fills in the gap of that anxiety of the absence of that snap.
It's like the devil you know is better than the devil you don't.
Absolutely.
It's I kind of compare it okay, if you're driving down the same dirt road, you're going to know the track. But then if you have to go down a new one and you're like, I don't know.
Scary.
I don't know what's behind the door. And it's but what if I told you there was an oasis behind there?
Yeah.
Oh, but how long is it going to take me to get there? It's totally normal. I love that because it's is that a cognitive bias, right? When you if you're looking for a car, right? Yeah. And you're like, I want a red car. Then all of a sudden you see a red car.
Yeah.
Everywhere you look, because it's if I'm looking for it, and I think this is part of my
or sometimes we seek it or create it.
Creating it.
As someone who's self-identified as addicted to drama, it's if the chaos wasn't there, I would start to feel bored or anxious because I would go, in an ideal world, we would all just calm down and settle and regulate.
Only.
But for so many of us, calm, settled, ease, peace is actually dangerous because you're not prepared for the next potential threat or chaos. And so you go seek it or you go create it to satisfy that anxiety and go, here it is. There it is. That's why I should always be on the alert and protected and ready.
I remember one of my first clients, when I first started helping anybody with dating.
Yeah.
And bless her.
Bless her.
I hope she's off into greener pastures.
Yeah.
But it was very much that I'm healed and I've done all this and I've done all this. And it was very clear as we started to work where I was like, okay, there's a lot of work to be done, right? And she, to her credit, such a trooper. Always took the feedback. Never tried to defer. But I remember she was dating this guy. They dated for probably maybe 2 months total.
Yeah.
And it was within a week they were in a relationship and you're like, Jesus fucking Christ. I could already tell. And it was literally talk about hypervigilant. every other day I'd be getting a message of like, no, he did this and he did this. And I'm telling you, and I'd stop and be like, yo, dude, are you going to take any accountability for your part in this?
Yeah.
And it was something so minute of like, well, I told him I wanted to come after, like he got home from work at 5 and I had been home all day and I told him I want to come by that night. And he told me maybe. And like, what the fuck? I wanted to come by that night. Like, why the fuck didn't you? And she started creating this whole thing. And I was like, okay, so let me ask you a question. He's not allowed to say no.
Yeah.
He's not allowed to say, I'm exhausted from work. I don't want to see you tonight. I've seen you 3 other nights this week.
Yeah.
And I kept stopping. She was like, oh, you're right. I guess I'm not respecting his needs. And I was like, no, you're creating issues. And then sure enough, the month and a half go by. And he finally came to her and was like, I can't do, like nothing I do is enough. It's exhausting. And then sure enough, right after, this guy fucked me over and he lied to me. And I was like, you're in your bubble of, I haven't done anything wrong. It's all everybody else that's doing it to me. I'm like, hey, that's okay. I'll meet you where you're at. But that to me is the creation of the Tasmanian devil that's starting the
drama, the chaos, the crisis, the issues,
the shit flying everywhere.
The shit flying,
And then like when I brought her that, she would always say, you're right, and you're right, and you're right. And it's like, that's okay. I'm not trying to be right. It has nothing to do with validating that. It's like, but maybe we can look internally and say, what happens in my body when this person's inconsistent? Okay, have I felt that before?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when my father used to do that.
Yeah.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
This episode is brought to you by Zocdoc. Being an adult has its high points, right? Like you can eat ice cream at any time. That's more so my thing because I'm a 6-year-old and I eat dinner to get to dessert. But it's not all fun because you still have to do your taxes, which nobody taught us. And you still have to figure out what's for dinner every freaking night and make doctor's appointments. But that's why we have Zocdoc, the healthcare app that makes adulting so much easier. So Zocdoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high quality in-network doctors, choose the right ones for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. Guys, we're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skincare, and so much more. Guys, as someone like me who has been going through this crazy mold detox and understanding what's happening in my body, Zocdoc has been a savior. I don't have to sit and go through 1,000 doctors and figure out what I need. You can do that lightning fast. So Zocdoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same day appointments. Guys, stop putting off those doctor appointments and go to Zocdoc.com/Sabrina and find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/Sabrina. Again, Zocdoc.com/Sabrina. But I'm curious to learn more about the somatic practices that you've created.
Yeah.
How does that play in? Like, when do you use them? And if we can teach, because like I'm all about tools, if we can give something to folks that are helping, because I know a lot of people are like, you know, we hear all the, I don't want drama.
Yeah.
Right? I don't do that. It's not me.
It's never me.
But if we're having somebody that's like, oh shit, maybe I do have a lot of chaos in my life, where do they start?
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite practices is, it has to do with understanding memory spread or associated memory spread. So basically it's like, if I'm in a relationship with someone and they're late for 5 minutes, okay, maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe I have values around time. But every time someone has been late in my life, activates. It's like all the light bulbs of those memories start to turn on. And so not only are you filled with the emotion of the past, but you're actually flooded with it. And so one of the things to recognize is in any given moment is like, if you're at a decibel of 7 in emotional response and you hear the narrative and you feel the giant activation, one of the things to do is to go, how many other light bulbs are turned on right now? How many other memories are being activated in my body that I'm not aware of? And just take a guess. You don't actually have to know. And just imagine dimming the lights of the light bulbs behind you so that you can be with what's actually here in front of you. And that usually de-escalates it enough to be like, I'm back in my body. Okay, it's just 5 minutes. Or I get to say, 5 minutes makes me a little anxious, and I'm going to share that with them without making them at fault.
Right.
Say, hey, I know you're working hard to get here on time. There's probably traffic. And I just wanted to share with you because I trust you to hear me and know that you don't have to do anything. Is like, sometimes I feel anxious around time. And that's a part of something I'm really exploring right now. And all of a sudden you're in relationship with each other, which doesn't happen when you're flooded from the past.
100%. And like, I hear that. And like Ryan kind of said something to me earlier. He was like, you waste a piece of, you like when we first started dating, he was like, you waste someone's life, or you waste someone's time, you waste a part of their life.
Yeah.
And so he's very like, and I learned that of like, he feels disrespected if I've made him wait 10 minutes, you know, even if it's like, hey, I'm on my way, it doesn't matter. It's like, this person's there on time. Yeah. And it's true. It's like, it didn't have to mean that I was wrong. It wasn't like I'm a bad person, but it's okay. Well, there's an action that I'm doing that is causing a reaction to you. And if I care and I want to work through this with you, then it's important for me to put my shit aside and my ego and say, okay, I'm listening. Yes. Tell me more. Yes. Or how did this impact you? Or what did it make you feel? Or, okay, what do you need from me?
Yeah. Yes. And that's the responsible partner.
Right.
But we also have to do our own work of going, in any given moment, 99% chance that you are being flooded from the past into the present. Every time you see the color green, in this moment right now, look around the room. If you see the color green, every other moment in your life that you have seen green is flooding this moment and affecting your perception of how you're seeing it and experiencing it in this moment. Take a pause. Turn out the lights behind you, come into this present moment with this green. It's not easy to do necessarily at first, but with practice, you stop escalating your own self unintentionally.
Oh, I love that. Because it's important. I think at the end of the day, when it comes to healing, what you're saying and what I'm saying, it's like, it's repetition. Yeah. Right? Like it's repetition. You have to do something a million times. Yeah. Actually, I think what my friend said, she was reading a study and it's 300 times for your body to remember something. So like 300 of the same thing, 3,000 for you to embody a new mindset. So I got to say, I have to believe it 3,000 times. And it's like, yeah, okay, so it's going to take me a minute. Yeah. Right? But I wanted to ask you a couple of questions from that we got on the Soch. Okay. I'm not going to give my feedback on.
But I love your feedback.
Oh, it'll come after, just not first. Because I want your thoughts first before Okay. So again, this kind of goes back on what we were just talking about, is like, if someone asks, what do you expect from someone when you're stressed?
What do you expect from someone? So here's the dealio. Stress is not universal. Despite what you have been told, that's fucking clickbait. Stress is, and this is also what's really interesting, stress is not something negative. Stress and our stress response in our body is how we actually adapt in the world. It's the release of energy in our body to make a mobilization or adaptation to this stimulus and then navigate it in the dance of life. That's what a stress and stress response is. Stress is the stimulus. Stress response is our body getting ready and actioning adaptation. So now, based on a lot of modeling, based on a lot of different ways we had to compensate as kiddos, we have different reactions of avoiding stress response or avoiding the expression that can come with that, or we're locked in a trauma response, so we feel like there's only one option. When actually in a healthy enough being, we have lots of choice. Mm-hmm. So it's more about, how do I expect someone to respond in stress? I expect someone to have a lot of choices. When they don't have a lot of agency, the ability to recognize, okay, I could do this, I could do that, I could do that, that tells me they're actually flooded. And that is a totally different way of navigating. It's like, then it's all about how I'm going to co-regulate with you. I see you're flooded, boo. I love you. I'm going to be here. We can take some breaths together. We can go take a walk. We can go process. We can take a bath. We can go have sex. Whatever you need. Let's co-regulate as a team.
Right. And I think the key here is like the word, what I always have an issue with is like, because I think she was saying like, what should I expect from my partner? Like to me, it's like, well, or have you expressed clearly your expectations? Yep. Because if I'm stressed, I don't expect my partner to just automatically attune to my needs. No. I don't expect him to just know what I'm going to need. We've been together 2 years, so we have an understanding of, like you said, when I see my partner stressed, he wants to get laid, right? Or like, let's go for a walk, right? Or like, let's do something. Yeah. And I remember once, I'll never forget, I hope he doesn't mind me sharing, when we first started dating, I like THC. I love edible, like products like that. And I took too much. And I was so anxious. I like couldn't sit still. And I'll never forget, Ryan was like, he just like grabbed me and we had sex. And I remember after being like, wow, God, that helped me so much. I could release all that. I was like, how'd you know? And he was like, oh, I didn't. I was just really hoping that was what was going to do it. I was like, well, as a man, thank you. I was like, thank you for going for the automatic.
you.
And it worked. And like, it doesn't always.
Yeah.
And like, he's tried since, and I'm like, not this time.
Yeah.
And it's like, but as a partner, I've also said, hey, when I'm really stressed, you know what I need from you?
Yeah.
Oh, I would love if you just fucking sit there and let me talk.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Then moving forward, I'd expect that you would, but I have to clearly articulate.
You have to clearly articulate what the needs are to support your co-regulation, to support your regulation.
Right.
And that's a big deal that you typically should articulate before you're flooded or before you're in the overwhelm. Like, hey, boo, these are the 4 things that really help me when I'm stressed out.
Yeah, like for me, I'm like, I know, like Ryan knows, I'm like, I go for a walk and I call my mom. So when I get stressed, I'll see my headphones on the table and he's like, do you want it? I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
Because it's totally okay. Okay, so this is a question I actually asked, but I put it in
Sneaky.
Okay, I used to see this all the time.
Okay.
Your thoughts on, I don't want any drama on a profile or like on a dating, because I see it religious. Like I don't want any drama. And I'm like, okay, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay. It's 2 things.
Yeah.
A, they have experienced someone who has exaggerated and intensified emotions, narratives, stories that are disproportionate to what was needed to be in a relationship. Or they're an asshole.
They want no accountability.
And no accountability. And they might have grown up in a environment where the expression of emotions was so minimized that any expression of emotion feels big. And so for them, it's the Alice in Wonderland situation where just as like, oh, you're sharing your sadness at a 2. Well, I can only tolerate it at a 0.5. And so your 2 seems so big. In reality, they need to stretch their capacity.
This episode is brought to you by OneSkin. Dry skin, deeper wrinkles? These are just a few of the visible signs of aging. Something today's sponsor OneSkin knows all about. I'm not overly concerned with aesthetics, you guys know, but I do want to keep my skin healthy as I get older. You know, I've been wearing a lot more makeup now that I'm on camera. And when I talk to my esthetician and my makeup artist, I have super dry skin and they all keep telling me you need a peptide, you need the right moisturizer. And that's why I love OneSkin. Their topical supplements, they actually help your skin feel and behave younger as you age. OneSkin is the first and only skin longevity company to target cellular senescence. It's a key hallmark of aging with their proprietary OS1 peptide. OS1 is scientifically proven to decrease lines and wrinkles, boost hydration, and help with the thinning skin that often comes with aging. Guys, do not just take my word for it. They've got over 4,000 5-star reviews for their full line of face, body, sun, and travel-sized products. So guys, for a limited time only, you can try OneSkin for 15% off using the code Sabrina when you check out at oneskin.co. With OneSkin, your skin can stay healthy, strong, and hydrated at every age. So guys, again, OneSkin is the world's first skin longevity company. By focusing on the cellular aspects of aging, OneSkin keeps your skin looking and acting younger for longer. Get started today with 15% off using code Sabrina at oneskin.co. Again, that's 15% off oneskin.co with code Sabrina. So after you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that the Sabrina Zohar Show sent you. Okay, does drama create a false sense of intimacy or connection?
Yes. Oh my God, great question. Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. When I've had clients come in, they're like, oh my God, our best sex is makeup sex. And I was like, no. Or
the toxic is the best sex.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, why? Why? It's because we had this big rupture and we were really able to repair during sex. And I was like, okay, that layer of intimacy that you're saying feels really good, does it always require high intensity? If so, we're seeing a pattern of roller coaster here. And that means that you will not feel that level of intimacy that you're desiring unless you have a big activation, a big stress response. And is that how you want to live the rest of your fucking life? I don't.
You know what, I'll be fucking honest with you. I say intimacy when I refer to this because on Instagram, people are like, it's just sex. I'm like, you're not allowed to say that word on Instagram because you'll get blocked. So I'm like, sex, intimacy, and just being an adult, in and out is always sexier with somebody that's unattainable. It's like, yeah, because you feel like you're being chosen in that moment. I used to, oh my God, the best sex of my life was with an ex. And it's at the time before I met my partner. And it was, because I was that was my validation. You chose me. You're here. You're picking me. Maybe more can come of this because it is a very intimate act. You're both, you can have someone in your fucking body, but you can't talk about your emotions. Like, hello. And, because somebody else had asked, and this kind of goes in of like, can you change, like, can you go from it being high highs and change it to a healthy love?
Oh, of course.
anything. Well, of course, it's like I can win the lottery tomorrow and do all of these things. It's like, well, what's required of that
is you have to be willing to enjoy boringness or what you perceive as boringness. Like if you were diabetic or you got a notification you were pre-diabetic, a notification, whatever that means, like a little buzzer on your phone. Hey, you're pre-diabetic. Check your insulin, asshole. I'm pre-diabetic, so I can say this. Is like you would start to make lifestyle changes, especially around nutrition, right? So like, I'm not going to eat that donut anymore. And if sugar was my spice of life, or if drama was my spice of life, and I start to take a diet of it, all of a sudden food, or like I'm taking out salt and sugar, all of a sudden, even the vegetables I have, I'm like, ew. Oh my God, they're so fucking boring. They're bland. I don't care how much nutrients is in those motherfuckers. I am grossed out until there's a space in which you're like, oh, I can actually start to taste the flavors of the vegetables. I taste the flavors of my food, the natural flavors, which are actually amazing, but I've been spicing them with drama and fights and all these other things. I've never actually tasted the purity of love, or in this example, the vegetables. And when you do, it's like so many flavors and nuances and deliciousness that you can never get to in the high highs.
Beautifully said. I like the spice, right? Like thinking of it like it's boop, you add it because you can take it away.
Yeah.
And I could definitely relate to that. Like I used to think if it were like healthy, why? But why do I have to? What do you mean you like me? But I have to fight for this.
Yeah.
I have to go through hell and back to see if you're going to leave me.
I have to chase you. You have to, or you have to chase me, whatever the fuck it is.
So much of self-abandonment. So much. What I hear with the drama is a lot of self-abandonment.
It is. Because that's how it all started. I mean, any addiction starts with the need to abandon oneself as a preservation, a survival mechanism. You know, what we know from addiction now, like before it was like, oh, addiction is just in your chemical reaction in your brain. Now we know it's a biopsychosocial model, which means like your environment can change your chemistry, your gene expression, your relationships can change all of that. So it is a biological piece, but it's not just.
People, places, and things.
All of those things. And what we know about addiction is the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's human connection. It is the void to which many of us feel. It's like I had to dissociate a shit ton as a kid in order to survive what I went through, as did you.
Oh, yeah.
Like all the beatings, like I had to get the fuck out of there. But there was such a pain that, you know, then pain is the signal that something is wrong, right, in your body. That in the pain and the signal was there was an absence of me, of where I needed and should belong. And I filled or masked that pain with various addictions, including drama. And until I could start to feel safe enough in my own body to come back and know that I belong here, that I belong in my own body, then that was the point where I was like, oh, I don't need any of this other shit. I don't need the fights. I don't need to be chasing someone. I don't need someone to chase me. I'm actually enough.
That's why I'm such a proponent of like when I was in my hot mess phase, I didn't have a routine. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
You've got to regiment yourself.
You do.
Like every day I get, ooh, this is hard. It's like, choose your fucking hard. You know what's really hard? Getting up every day.
Yeah.
Right. I think even my skincare routine, I'm like, girl, you commit, right? Like there's a lot of things, and it's like working is hard, living is hard, functioning is hard, but we choose our hard.
Yeah.
And family relationships, these are all those dynamics. Of course, they're going to feel extra tender, and they're going to feel really, but I think, okay, I want to end with one question.
Sure.
That somebody had asked that I think is a good one, is how do you differentiate between, is it boring? Like, am I bored with this person?
Yeah.
Or am I trying to get the drama?
Oh.
I've got my own personal experience, but I want to know your thoughts on this. Because it's a biggie.
Yeah. I remember as a kid often saying I was bored. And my mom said, only boring people are bored. Or something like that. And I was like, oh, well, I don't want to be a boring person. And I truly was not. But, you know, here's the thing that I find is if I'm in myself and I can get curious with another person and they can get curious with me, there's an endless amount of information, of stimulus, of activities that we can do and talk about. And if I need the highs, that sort of, when you're stressed out, we all know that feeling in our body. If you're finding that and that you need that to be in a relationship, then the boredom that we're talking about, the discernment, is like when you don't have that, you're going to have a long time of what you perceive as boredom, and then mixed with anxiety. And underneath that, if you can ride it, will be like an amazing array of experiences. And I don't know, I've never gotten bored in a relationship.
I think...
Have you?
Yeah, I did. Well, because I was dating the wrong people. I was bored in the relationship because these weren't for me. I looked at, I have a boyfriend.
They couldn't meet you. Like, they weren't interacting and engaging and asking, like, questions and stuff like that?
It was just, like, they weren't compatible for me. It was, like, my ex was such an amazing human being, but, like, just totally different world than me.
Okay.
And we weren't really wanting the same future. We weren't really, things like that you're like, this just isn't for me anymore.
Well, that's essential. If you don't respect each other, if you don't have a shared vision of the future, and you don't, like, where are you going?
Where are we going?
Where are you going?
Whereas when I met Ryan, I was interested in learning more about him.
Yes.
That was to me the different. I'm like, listen, I've gone on dates where you're like, God, somebody gouge my eyes out so I don't have to, like, how quickly can I get out of here? Because some people really don't have a personality to back that up.
Sure.
And you can tell, you're like, wow, you don't ask me any questions. You just give me one word answers. It's like that. There's a difference between, is this just super healthy? It's like, no, that person's not actually even giving you anything to work with versus.
But I don't find that a relationship.
Right.
So that I just to, like, interrupt you for a moment and say, like, if it's not bidirectional, it's not a relationship. I have never found a bidirectional actual relationship boring because there is the exchange.
That's true. Yeah. The guys that I'm referring to were like, they had drinking problems.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we weren't.
There's no sharing the space.
Yeah. There was like two single people trying to navigate the world together, and you're like, that's not working.
There's nothing about that that's relational.
No. And it's like, I think for me, if you're completely right, if you're with somebody that you're like, I'm not interested in this person, okay, then don't be with this person, right? Yeah. Like, thank you. But if you're with someone and you're like, no, they're awesome, like they're funny and I enjoy being around them, but I hear all the time, like, the spark is missing.
AKA the trauma tingles.
Thank you. We should start with this. How did I not start with this in the episode? Because I think the spark is such a dangerous, I'm like, you're chasing a feeling eventually that's going to go away.
And, I've had people say to me, because I talk about the trauma tingles, and the trauma tingles is the unconscious, magnetism towards someone that is the familiar, or it is this something that is familiar enough that reactivates the familiar in you, however we want to say it. Essentially, like, I've had people say, like, oh, so no one should have feelings on that first date. No, we're not talking about that. But if you're chasing that alone and you're not meeting the actual person, you're not actually in a relationship. You're chasing the sensation.
You want a feeling.
Remember when I talked about drama doesn't make sense? It's just about making sensation. Well, here we are. Trauma tingles is about being in purely the sensation and not in the relationship. It's just like pedestaling.
Oh, because I hear it all the time, like, they're perfect. They're amazing. They check all my boxes, but I'm not feeling the spark. And I'm like, so you're chasing a feeling.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Which, like anything, like a firework, like a light,
and that will burn out.
It's not Hanukkah, all right? That one light ain't lasting, right? Like, you bought a ticket, ride the ride. It's like, if you're getting where after, they're just boring me. It's like, well, but that's not sustainable.
No.
And this is what we mean by that high, low of like, I need this excitement. And it's like, well, but what goes up also has to come down.
Yeah. And again, I just want to really clarify, if you're chasing the sensation, you're not in a relationship. And that can be such a hard distinction because we're like, oh my God, I just feel so much. So feeling so much in myself
equals
relationship. It does not. No. And that's such an important discernment that, took me fucking 30, 40 years to figure out.
Yeah, hello, here we are.
Here we are. Still figuring it out.
Oh, Scott, we could literally fucking talk all day. But to wrap this up for just our episode now, where can people find you? How can they, you have a book.
I have a book.
How can they connect with you, listen to the podcast, all the fun stuff?
Yeah, drscottlyons.com. So it's Dr. Scott Lyons. Don't go to the porn stars website. You can follow me on socials, Dr. Scott Lyons as well. My book is Addicted to Drama, Healing the Dependency on Crisis and Chaos in Yourself and Others. And it's kind of everywhere. And you can listen to you and I talking on my podcast, The Gently Used Human.
Yee! And all of this will be linked. So everybody can buy the book and be part of the family. And I'm just so grateful. Thank you for being on the show.
Oh, I love you.
Love you too.